Your organisation, the Institute of Public Affairs, has done some research into this as it happens, and it could easily emulate the Waitangi Tribunal in New Zealand. Now, Scott, what happened in New Zealand with this tribunal, and why is it a warning to Australia?
Well, it's a very interesting process, because what IPA research fellow and director of the Legal Rights Project, John Story, has tracked in his research is how the Waitangi Tribunal was set up, I think in its initial version in the 70s, and then later boosted to inquire into matters relating to the original agreement between the Crown and the Maori tribes in the 19th century. And it was meant to be an investigative and an advisory body. And what's happened over time, and this is really the crux of the analysis that John provides, and he's spoken to people in New Zealand about this as well, is that over time it has gained more and more power, and to the extent that it has effectively wielded a veto over certain government decisions. Now, there are people are getting furiously trying to dispute this, but when the Waitangi Tribunal makes these determinations and the government of the day just says, well, we now have to do that, that looks like a veto to me. So it's definitely been a very concerning investigation from our point, because it starts from that purely advisory model and over time gains strength to the point where, for instance, during the COVID era, which please let that be behind us, but the Waitangi Tribunal actually interfered in the process of rolling out vaccines in terms of the order in which the population was vaccinated, to put the Maori in front of other at-risk groups. And that was something then the government felt it had no choice but to do.
Well, it's interesting that you point out that that the tribunal is creating ways for the government to treat citizens differently according to colour of skin. My argument against the Voice is that it is possibly for the first time, or for the first time in my lifetime, that a government is proposing a fundamental departure from the Judeo-Christian principle that Western society has relied on for thousands of years, that we're all equal, that in front of the law and in society, as far as our rights, our property possessions, our position in society, we are equal. How can a government propose to divide its own citizens in this way, Scott?
Well, indeed, Fred, and this is where I would come back to the centuries-old precedent. So certainly the old principle of there is neither slave nor free, neither man nor woman, neither Jew nor Gentile, we're all equal, does come from the Bible. But then, of course, in the post-Enlightenment era, that principle survived on its own, essentially. So the principle of equality, has a life certainly that is dear to believing Christians, but also has become a secular principle. And as I say, of the separation of powers, it's one of those fundamental things in the liberal democratic order, that we approach our parliaments with equal rights, with equal standing, with equal dignity, and certainly equal civil rights. So this is definitely departing from the principles of equality, and you don't have to be a Christian to be concerned about that. You just ask, how can liberal democracy actually survive in the form that we want, and for us all to thrive, for everyone to have the lives of human flourishing that we all want, as opposed to being divided and sniping at each other along the boundaries of race, which is something nobody really wants.